Whenever I walk past the local children's center near my house, I hear the sound of youth. It's a powerful, vibrant melody. The screech of bicycle tires coming to a halt in front of the tree in the square that connects the underground public library with the children's center on the second floor, followed by the rattle of bags with snacks filled to the brim. The cry of babies running towards their mothers and a thump, marking the moment they end up in their mother's arms. Public spaces nest communities. They carry people's livelihoods, and most importantly, they're a crucial part of city development. So, some of you may be familiar with the term public spaces, but let me provide you all with the term, clear definition of this term from the UN for us to build upon. Public spaces refer to the average share of the built-up area of cities that are open space for public use of all, by sex, by age, and persons with disabilities. But here, I'm talking about the public spaces that generate meaning, thought, and life between individuals in which people can settle and gather. Before I delve into the specifics of public spaces and its functionalities, let me take you all back to my childhood years, where I formed a strong connection with these spaces. Growing up in a small town called Brookline in the US, I frequently visited public parks, public ice skating rinks, public libraries, all over the Boston area. My father was a researcher in the US, sent from Japan, which meant that our family didn't have the luxury to spend every penny in amusement parks or fancy vacations in luxurious hotels. However, not once did I stop and think to myself, why can't I do the things that my friends are doing and become envious of my classmates? I'll always be grateful to my parents who made every weekend special and a memorable one, even when times were rough. They continued to show us what it meant to be resilient and creative, turning this financial setback into an opportunity to explore the wonders of public areas and facilities all over the Boston area. I always had a story to tell to my friends on the weekends, on Mondays when we were back from the weekends. This feeling probably comes from the fact that public spaces have historically preserved cultures throughout the world. One striking example that I will share with you guys is hip-hop culture. Hip-hop culture was a communal and festive culture beginning in the Bronx neighborhood in New York. Hip-hop such as graffiti, street dancing, rap, and more flourished and originated in the streets, specifically in block parties, where sheets of cardboard became dance floors for break dancers, and brick walls became canvases for graffiti artists. In this way, public spaces were able to preserve life between communities and foster connections between individuals. When I originally moved to the US, I was struggling to find a community where I truly felt accepted and seen. As a Japanese student who couldn't speak English at the time, I struggled to find a community where I truly was able to express my emotions. And all my emotions were reduced to just facial expressions and hand gestures. Amidst the struggle, me and my parents came across a dance studio in Jamaica Plain. I still remember my first impression of the studio. The studio had a dark and shabby look, and when we got out of the car, we realized that there weren't many people in the parking lot, and I got even more nervous. However, I wouldn't have imagined the bustling community that surrounded me once I entered these brick walls, and the yellow painted walls that surrounded me, making me fall in love with the dance community. I was able to express my suppressed emotions through hip hop and build connections with other dancers. as well as finding a voice. Although this appreciation for public spaces was imminent in my life back in Boston, when I came back to Japan, I gradually realized how these spaces were losing their presence over time as I entered my teenage years. Until recently, when I came across a book called Humanized by Thomas Heatherwick. His book highlights how our world is losing its humanity. Too many companies care more about their shareholders than society. And too many cities feel soulless and depressing. Designed for business, not for us. So, where do we find hope? Reading this book, I realized that this part of public spaces is what intrigues me most. Thomas Heatherwick describes a crisis in modern cities. Places designed for profit rather than for people. Imagine if we were able to treat public spaces as homes where communities can share values and cultures instead of just business opportunities. A similar project forcing people to undergo displacement can be seen in the Bronx area that I just mentioned, which was the birthplace of hip hop. Greening the Ghetto highlights how land use policies ignore people who are affected by nearby polluting facilities in southern Bronx. This is planning at the cost of what? Nothing. Thousands of displaced low-income families call for environmental justice, which is defined by how no community should be saddled with more environmental burdens and less environmental benefits than any other. This is an example of how urban policies continue to impact families without much say in city development, leading to further separations of people and the diminishing of human connections due to poor planning. So, amidst the struggle to find community in public spaces, recently, around the Tokyo metropolitan area, I have noticed the increasing development of public areas in Tokyo. After World War II, Miyashita Park was built as part of a war-damaged reconstruction project. This alleviated families who were at the edge of society. And due to the increase in impoverished populations in Tokyo from the bombing of Tokyo, communities started to form around the park, such as the black market, which became a source of income for many poor families. Commerce Beats Community at Miyashita Park. This title caught my attention because of how Miyashita Park was thought to be this rejuvenation project for Shibuya. However, although the park is highly receptive to the public in the new mall, the destruction of the park has left those most vulnerable in society completely alienated. So this is a wake-up call. While redeveloping urban spaces can be inspiring and can be something that we can look forward to, commercial overhauls like the recently opened Miyashita Park inevitably leave one to wonder. Was this the only solution to creating vibrant spaces in public areas? How many meaningful human connections were lost due to the destruction of this park? So I ask of you one thing today. Get up, explore what the city offers us, the public spaces in our neighborhoods and our local areas, and that most of us might take for granted on a daily basis. Get people involved. Enjoy time spent outside of our virtual connections, away from our digital devices. Recently, studies have shown that public spaces and parks have become an effective solution to the deteriorating mental health of our generation. A study by the National Health Survey in the UK shows that social interactions in public areas are able to positively impact mental health. For me, it was through hip hop, which originated in public spaces, I was able to open up my social sphere and make new connections with people, as well as finding a voice and becoming an active participant in the classroom. Civic engagement and social events, like today's event, should be more normalized, should be more seen in our generation today. Knowing what is happening in urban city centers and visiting local parks in public spaces is essential to protecting the cultures that make our cities vibrant and special. The next move towards change is in your hands, because the power to change and shape these public spaces belongs to you, and it belongs to all of us. Thank you.